Good afternoon. We're convening the Joint Committees on Water, Land, Culture and the Arts, and Agriculture and the Environment on our 1 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224. We have a number of measures up on this agenda. So we'll ask folks to make sure your written testimony is submitted. As we have a number of testifiers, we're going to limit folks to 1 minute for their testimony to make sure that we're going to have an opportunity for everyone to weigh in. Committee after that, the committees will have an opportunity to ask questions. And for folks online, we're going to ask those who signed up to testify on specific bills at the appropriate time to weigh in. Otherwise, we'll be limiting time for everybody to make sure that we can get through this. So that being said, up first is Senate Bill 2606 relating to wildlife, which establishes the Freshwater State Recreational Area Wildlife Sanctuary Corporation. Testifying first is the ERS on Zoom.
Vice Chairs, members of the committee, my name is James Grubel, testifying on behalf of Executive Director Calvert Young. We submitted written testimony providing comments with some concerns on the eligibility of these employees of the corporation, and we'll stand on our written testimony and be here for any questions.
Thank you. Up next is the Department of Land and Natural Resources.
Aloha, Pete Toxic on behalf of the chair. The department stands on their testimony.
Thank you. That's everyone who signed up to testify on this measure. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on SB 2606 in the audience? All right, seeing none, are there questions? Seeing none, thank you, everybody. Let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Chair.
Can we ask, yes, a DLNR or representative? This is not an administration bill, but can you just share with us the conflicts, if there's any, or the comments with regards to the ask of this measure?
Thank you, Senator. At this time, the department is not prepared to make any statements because we have not looked into the ramifications of those things that you ask. I will bring that back to the administrator and the chair and let them know you did have questions, and we will follow up with you and the committee after.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks a lot.
Any further questions? Seeing none. All right, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next measure, Senate Bill 3253 relating to conservation, which establishes the Hawaii Conservation Sanctuary as a nonprofit group to work with DLNR on similar things. Testifying first, signed up is DLNR. Good afternoon.
Hello. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jason Omick. I'm with the Division of Forest and Wildlife. I'm here on behalf of DLNR, and we support this measure and are available for questions if you guys have any.
Thank you. That's everyone who had signed up to testify on this measure. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on SB 3253? Seeing none, are there any questions?
Yes. Oh, yeah, please.
Go ahead.
Yes, same for me.
So where are you guys looking at establishing these conservation sanctuaries, and how much will one cost?
Well, one, I don't think this is a department bill. I'd have to look at that. How much would something like this cost? We've never done anything like this in Hawaii. I have been to New Zealand where they had a similar sanctuary as indicated in the bill. It's called Zinlandia. They basically predator-proofed this giant valley and brought in endangered species, and they thrived, and mostly because there's no predators. And but it's an amazing place to bring in the community, cultural groups, all kinds of stuff, to have like learning centers and things like that in there. So something that we really haven't done as a department before. Of course, we work with a lot of other nonprofits doing other types of work, but not maybe, and in like sanctuary management, maybe in watershed protection type of programs, but not like developing an actual sanctuary ran by a nonprofit where we kind of work together with them on the things they do in there. A place like in New Zealand, in Wellington, I don't know how many acres that is. I would say it would probably be millions of dollars to develop something like that. A predator-proof fence that was probably 8 miles long or something like that. So this is something that if a nonprofit wanted to do something like this, we
Yes,
would be
assist.
happy to work with them as a department to, you know, have that.
Okay, thank you.
development together.
Thank you, Chair.
Vice Chair?
Yes. I think you're familiar, you're with the actual agency with this that has to do with the questions. Hakalau on the Big Island has a private, the wildlife sanctuary, sort of. And I was reading this and I thought, oh, maybe this could kind of fit with what's happening with Hakalau and the preservation and all the work that's been going there. They've come a long way, many years, and the protection of our native birds, I think, has flourished. So you're familiar with the Hakalau
Yes,
preservation?
that's a federal wildlife sanctuary.
Right. And I was just wondering if this would fit into this measure.
I think it would, you know, building something like this where you're wanting to see benefits from the top of the mountain down to the ocean, we would have to look for a place that the state owns land in a direction like that, you know, from Malcolm to Mackay. And there are places on the east side of this island that we do own areas like that that could be a sanctuary like this. Kahana Valley.
Yeah, but you're saying, like, as an example for Hakalau, isn't that within our own agency's land? No, that's private, yeah.
That's
The
Hopewell
nonprofit.
is a federal federal lands.
And it,
Yeah, so they took a big chunk of the
Right.
forest there where there are a lot of forest birds that are highly endangered and they're doing a lot of protection there. And so working with a nonprofit or trying to develop something like that, again, somewhere else, you know, you'd want to find that pristine place to do that. Or find another place that you can bring back, you know, and make pristine again.
so what we're saying that this measure pretty much is a state function bill with state lands.
I
Is that
think
correct?
it
But I
really
thought it had
depends. It's
not-
just talking about a nonprofit managing and, you know, developing a sanctuary like this. It could be on private lands. It could be anywhere. I think you'd have to search for that place that you have room to do work like this.
Okay.
But we do have many different wildlife sanctuaries here, and we do have nonprofits that work with us in these areas and stuff. But this is like kind of talking about a nonprofit, you know, doing most of that work and collaborating with the
I see.
department.
Okay, thanks so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next measure, SB 237, relating to adaptation pathways planning, which expands the authority of the state and counties to develop adaptation pathways to modify and relocate infrastructure away from critically threatened areas to locations outside sea level rise and coastal flooding exposure areas. And testifying first on 237 is DLNR. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, committee members.
Good afternoon.
Michael Kane, on behalf of DLNR, we stand on our testimony in support, and we have read through the public testimony also. So I would just add that there are a number of bills that focus on regional planning that are currently alive. We have a soft spot for this one because it prioritizes our public trust resources over economic development or private property, and that is our mission at DLNR, to protect the public trust resources. So with that, I'll be available for questions.
Thank you. Testifying next, signed up to testify next on SB 237 is Kahana Bay Steering Committee.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Mihoko Ito on behalf of the Kahana Bay Steering Committee. We are respectfully opposed to this measure. While we do believe that it's important to do regional planning, the difference between this bill and some of the other measures that the Waterland Committee has heard is that this bill, really presumes that the end goal is managed retreat with respect to properties. And we would just like to see more balance in the measure. that considers that there's a whole spectrum of things that could be done with respect to erosion mitigation, including intermediary solutions. So for those reasons, we think that there's language that could be included that would bring more balance to the bill and its objectives. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That is everyone who had signed up to testify on SB 237. Is there anyone else? Oh, I apologize. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
sorry. Please come forward. OPSD.
Chairs, Mary Alice Evans for the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We appreciate the intent of this measure, and we are working with DLNR. We prefer a broader definition of regional shoreline management planning that includes adaptive pathways, but also may include some sand stabilization or sand nourishment in early years, so we would like to see a little broader language. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this measure? Please come forward.
Senator Gabbard, Senator Lee, Senator Inouye, and Senator Richards, and members of the committee. My name is Bernie Bays. I'm an attorney representing the Shoreline Preservation Coalition. As some of you know, SPC is a coalition of individuals and community groups concerned with preserving our beaches and shorelines. We respectfully oppose this bill also. We think these planning functions that are proposed by this bill are better performed by the planning department because that's their job, is to prepare plans. And we think the other Senate bill, 2401, is better suited to address this. SBC totally supports regional planning, and that's what's been missing from our arsenal of tools to deal with sea level rise. We need a lot more science and a lot less mantras to deal with shoreline encroachment.
You can summarize. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else on SB 237? Seeing none, are there any questions? Oh, Senator Rhodes, followed by Senator Inouye.
For Mihoko Ito and Mr. Bays, if you don't mind, please come up again. Questions. I'm a little baffled as to what, I mean, really the only two options are a planned retreat or unplanned retreat. I mean, what's the third option that you guys are seeing that I'm not seeing and that most of the environmental community is not seeing?
Well, Senator Rhodes, I don't disagree with you. We've got some projected sea level rise, and there are many tools to deal with that. And
that's what I'm asking about. What are those tools?
oh, there's beach groins, there is sand pushing. As sand migrates down the beach, you can either stop that migration, push the sand back in some places. And again, each region is different. Like the North Shore of Oahu is very unusual in that there's 100 feet of beach there now, and there will be for 85% of the year. There's only a brief time when the beach becomes narrow and the homes are threatened. So that's totally different than any other beach. So the plans to deal with shoreline encroachment there are completely different than they would be for other beaches.
But how is it different? Because if you're threatened 15% of the year and your house gets swept away in that 15% of the year, then you have to do the same armoring things to keep it from happening.
You'd have to do something, that's right. Now, we don't know, sand pushing has been very effective in some beaches. There's also a beach on the North Shore that has a 60-foot rock revetment that goes all the way down to the reef. That's the only beach on the North Shore that's growing, and we don't know quite why that is, because the mantra is that rock revetments cause beach loss, but in that case,
Pretty sure the science says that that's exactly what they do, is they cause beach loss.
that's what they say. But then when you look at that, that's the only beach that's growing. And if I were gonna explain the science, what seems to happen is the sand that comes in with the waves kind of gets embroiled in the rocks, takes the energy out of them, and the sand drops back on the beach.
Okay.
But I don't
I don't-
pretend to
I- I
understand the science of it.
If I can just add that we are working with coastal engineers who feel the same way, that not a one-size-fits-all of retreating is not the solution in all cases, and that each coastline is different because of the wave energy, because of the topography under the ocean. And so I think having all the tools in the toolbox, similar to what Office of Planning said, is we just want to see that all the tools are in the toolbox to be used, and that we're not presuming that it's one solution.
The macro picture is that the islands are, I mean, even if it weren't for global warming, the islands are getting smaller. That's why you have, the ones on the north end are down to tiny atolls. We're going to retreat. It's just, what's it gonna look like? So I don't know. I'm very skeptical of this notion that there's something we can do other than retreat,
Well, we have.
one way or the other.
Senator Rhodes said, I don't mean to belabor this, but we've developed a plan for the North Shore. We believe that is the second most important beach in Hawaii. And if you look at the numbers, more tourists visit that. It's only exceeded by Waikiki. And if we were to lose those famous surfing beaches, that would be incredibly damaging to Hawaii. So we've developed a plan there that would involve a gradual retreat. And we have recommended the state acquisition of the first 3 lots along that beach from Sunset Beach Park. And we have asked that those be purchased and added to Sunset Beach Park. And the plan would be that in the interim, we provide soft protections for the houses that are there. And if eventually it just becomes not possible to hold the line, for example, Representative Quinlan wants to hold the line after the acquisition of those 3 parcels for as long as we can, in part because it costs money. So that's our plan there, is to just see what we can do. And the plan there is that one of those property owners has agreed to fund a dune restoration program there on those 3 lots so that we can see how that actually works. In summary, we believe in trying a lot of things. We believe that Hawaii should be leading the world on the ways to deal
There's not enough
sea
money,
level rise.
there's not enough money in Fort Knox for the state to buy all the entire outer ring of this island or any other island. So I won't belabor my point, but I think the science is overwhelmingly clear that we're going to retreat one way or the other, whether we retreat in some sort of planned, not chaotic way, or things just get overwhelmed as time goes on. That's really the only choice we have. Thanks, chairs.
Thank you.
Yes, Mihoko,
Yes.
and please, we've worked on Kahana Valley for many years.
Yes.
And we're still working on it.
Yes.
And so with having, heard OPSD, it seems like you're all similarly in nature in your comments. So, and it seems like Kahana is different from North Shore.
Yes.
I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
am I right?
Yes,
Totally
it is
Okay.
very different. And in
Totally
the
So
case
see
of-
where we are and if there's any conflicts, or share something.
Yes, and I think that's what we're trying to do with some of the solutions that we've proposed, is to come up with something that's flexible, right? That can approach the different shorelines in the ways that are appropriate for those shorelines, right? And have the science for those shorelines bear itself out, right? In some cases, like in Kahana Bay, there's erosion that's really imminent, that it's already undermining the road on the other side of the buildings. So, there's issues that need to be dealt with there. You've seen in other regions like Iroquois Point that groins have worked, sea groins have worked, and that's sort of the proposed plan for Kahana Bay is a groin project. So I think in the case of North Shore, it's different, right? They've got like a proposed plan to do some retreats, some soft protections and that sort of thing. So I think that's our point, is that, and I do think we're aligned in the sense that regional planning is needed, right? And rather than parcel by parcel. And I think that's what this bill is trying to get at, but we think it tilts the scales too far one way.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
We agree with that.
Any
Thank
further
you.
questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, everyone. Let's
Thank
move
you.
on to the
Thank you.
next measure, SB 3252, which amends the powers and duties of the Climate Change Mitigation Adaptation Commission and establishes position and appropriates funds. Testifying first on 3252 is the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. Good afternoon.
Hello, chairs, vice chairs, Leah Laramie with the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. I'm the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Coordinator, and I drafted this testimony in support of this bill and am available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Up next is OPSD.
Chairs, thank you for the opportunity to testify on this. We'll stand on our testimony. It does offer concerns with this measure. And we're available for questions.
Thanks. That is everyone who had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure this afternoon? Seeing none, are there questions? Real quick, I guess for OPSD, sorry, the version of the testimony I'm looking at does not have yours in it, but could you real quick just give us a
Yeah.
high-level summary?
My apologies, it may have been submitted late.
Thanks.
So I'm going to ask Danielle Bass, our State Sustainability Coordinator, to summarize some of our concerns.
Thank you, Chair. We are distributing our late testimony. Mahalo for that opportunity. Essentially, OPSD is concerned that this bill removes the position of the two co-chairs. We believe that it is important that both cabinet-level officials confirmed by the Senate's advice and consent process, and to replace the Senate confirmed leadership of this commission with the coordinator raises concerns about accountability. Further, we find that a lot of the descriptions for this coordinator and the commission could be extremely duplicative for the roles and responsibilities, missions, mandates, and projects of the Office of Hawai'i and Sustainable Development. We're available for any questions.
Sure. Well, technically, we're in questions, so perfect timing. Okay. Well, I guess with that, so let me ask this. So we've had this commission in place in several different iterations for
10
now
years,
11.
11 years.
Yeah. I think part of the issue that's come up, at least in my engagement with it over the years, is that, well, one, there's not the capacity, I mean, within the commission itself to do all the things that need to be done. But secondly, with the co-chair situation, from what I've seen, there's been kind of a juggling ownership, I guess you could say, that hasn't really been able to effectively achieve all the things that statutorily the commission was set out to do in the first place, looking at a lot of the recommendations to the legislature, trying to get departments to not only share what they're doing, but actually provide direction to departments to say, here are the opportunities that are being done everywhere and should be considered by various departments. And part of the challenge is having the co-chairs be among those departments to a degree means that there's a bit of a conflict of interest, because how can you evaluate and propose policy while chairing the commission if, for example, a department's not doing as much as statute had originally intended?
I think my view of how the commission can make a difference over the long planning horizon that climate change is going to require Hawaii to adapt to is not one for just a small staff and a small commission to do it, but all 19 departments, maybe 20 if you increase the number of departments. And that each one of those departments needs to embed climate change targets and legislative mandates, of which there are quite a few, and our Sustainability Update 2050 is a really great inventory of those targets that the legislature has mandated. And to embed those into those departments so that they are taking the lead on their portion of this. Climate change is going to affect all of our departments, but each one in a different way. And so we need them to all act and not wait for a commission to tell them what to do, which is problematic because they are.
I don't disagree, but I think part of the contention here is that departments haven't been doing that in many cases, and the commission hasn't pushed them to do so, or the chairs, I should say.
If you would look at our annual report this year, you'll see that all of the departments are working in different ways. I would say some are ahead of others. I really love what the Department of Transportation is doing with highways. It's done, I think, some very advanced planning on how the impacts.
Sure, I guess what I'm getting at is, yeah, and absolutely agree, some departments are definitely ahead of others. I think the intent and the statutory construct of why we had this commission in the first place was not for departments to just implement what the legislature told them to do, which they should already be doing anyway.
Of course.
But it's to figure out beyond what's being done, what are all the other things that the legislature hasn't opined on or even considered yet that ought to be done. So departments who have expertise and staff in various respective areas beyond what we as legislators typically have are the ones saying there can be more done. The challenge is, I think is my contention anyway, over the last decade, that the commission itself, which is composed of a lot of departments, is valuable, but there's no incentive for those departments to come in and say, all right, we're going to do more, or the commission as a co-equal, co-chairs with many of these other departments to tell them you ought to be doing more. And so ultimately the effective structure has become somewhat ineffective. And you've seen a lot of what statutorily has already been mandated by statute for the commission to do that ultimately has not been fulfilled.
I think I would disagree respectfully that we've been working, the commission and its sole staff has been working with the university on sea level rise, and they have done some very good projections on where sea level rise. Thank you to Senator Rhodes on that.
I don't disagree with that, and we have to move on, but let me just end by saying that was the very first thing in 2014 when the legislature passed this and created it that was assigned to it statutorily. But there was a whole string of other stuff that came afterward, which has not to this day really been done and effectuated. And I think to Senator Rhodes' point earlier, these things are coming at us whether we like it or not. There's limited time. And I think what we've seen, at least what I've seen in my experience on the commission, has been a really good forum for discussion, but there's not the structure to incentivize change. And so when you speak to transparency and accountability, I think that's exactly what this is about. How do we create a structure where you can have an independent group that's looking at what the departments are doing and be willing to say, all right, here's all the best stuff that's being done around the country by other states that is probably ripe and applicable to our departments here in whatever way, and set that as possibilities beyond what the departments are doing today, or in some cases are even comfortable assessing, because change is hard and everybody's strapped and everything else. But if we can't have that discussion in the first place, and there can't be that level of transparency where we're going to say, all right, we're putting this all on the table, here's what could be done, and then having recommendations independent of those departments to say, like, you should be doing this. Ultimately, there's no real value in the commission. So we can take this offline, and I'm sure there's a bigger discussion. But I think at its core, we don't disagree that there needs to be more work done and more resources.
We do agree with that.
And that's to say, I think our coordinator has done a fine job excellent job considering the resources and circumstances. This is more of a, how do we put the right structure and leadership on the commission itself in place? And this isn't a ding on anybody at all. It's just a question of how do we proceed best in the future.
Chair, if I may, in our testimony, the final paragraph does support statewide interdepartmental funding for climate planning and climate coordination and implementation. As Mary Alice said, so many of our departments are working on this, the Department of Transportation, Agriculture, so many. And so one position OPSD has been consistent in, at least within the last 8.5 years, has been not only do we need to fund more in climate adaptation, resilience, sustainable development, but we also need to appropriate that and provide financing and staffing to those departments so that we can lift that up as well holistically statewide.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I have a,
Vice Chair.
if you're done, otherwise, I have a question with regards to the bill itself. Who's going to confirm or appoint the coordinator? It just says the coordinator shall serve as the chairperson, but I don't see the responsibilities of who manages or who appoints the coordinator, such as if it's CWORM, then the commission appoints and other actions. But I don't see a plan for the coordinator as well. Who appoints? And if you look at the page 9 on lines from 4 to 10, it speaks as well of the plan of the departments, but it says the coordinator shall assist the departments in complying with the and shall make reports. But what is the responsibility of the coordinator, and is the coordinator to be confirmed? One question I have is, presently, the commission already existing has been in place for many years that you and I have been members of, but they already have their employees working on it, the plans are moving, but just a concern that Section 4 includes a lot of money and a lot of full-time people. So that's not in the measure, so I'm just asking some questions. Who's gonna appoint the coordinator? Who's going to, is that person a confirmation position? Because you're dealing with agencies and you're dealing with funding.
Do you want to ask somebody about that, or?
No, just your bill.
Okay.
Okay.
It is.
Yes.
Okay, we can get into the details of that later. Well, actually, let me just real quick for the commission. Yeah, we wrote this on our side of the table, obviously, but I think if you had capacity with positions to be able to do some of this stuff as the bill sort of anticipates, a couple positions in funding and so forth, is there a list of, or are there things that are kind of ripe for that kind of analysis that would be first up in your mind, given some of these wide-ranging discussions we've been having here?
Yeah, mahalo, Leah Laramie with the Climate Change Commission. Absolutely, there's some very practical on-the-ground actions that I think we'd like to implement. We've just gotten a technical assistance grant to help to do analysis on getting more, and actually functionally get more solar on state buildings. So just supporting those kind of on-the-ground fleet transition, DOT is doing a lot of work with that, but I think there needs to be additional support for other agencies. So just doing those very practical implementation actions, I think these positions can help, as well as, tracking and having a little bit more transparency on what actions have been taking throughout the state. We've also been talking about, tracking funding and identifying how much funding is needed and how much funding is currently being applied to these actions is another thing that we can definitely support.
And then as far as, obviously OPSC's got a lot of capacity on their end of doing work and related various things, being able to coordinate and collaborate on some of those specific pieces. I don't know if that's happening now, but is that something that you guys are all available and open to?
Yeah, absolutely. We work together and connect on different topics. And, obviously as the co-chairs, we work closely with OPSD and DLNR.
Okay, thanks. Okay,
Thank you.
if there's no further questions on this, let me move on to SB 1178 relating to carbon sequestration incentives, which codifies and makes permanent the Hawaii Carbon Smart Land Management Assistance Program under DLNR. Testifying first on 1178 is the Climate Commission. Good afternoon again.
Hello again, Chair, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. Leah Laramie with Climate Change Commission. We stand on our testimony and support and available for questions.
Thanks. Up next is Hawaii Climate Protectors. Or sorry, Climate Protectors Hawaii.
It's okay either way.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Good to see you. Aloha Chairs, Vice Chairs, and members. Ted Boland on behalf of the Climate Protectors Hawaii. We need sequestration as well as reduction in emissions. We talk a lot about fossil fuel emissions and reducing those, but if we're going to make a dent in the climate change problem we've got in Hawaii, we're going to need sequestration. This bill is one step toward doing that, and I noted that it has almost no opposition, if any, in the bill, so I urge the committee to pass it, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thanks. Up next is signed up to testify Hawaii Cattlemen's Council on Zoom.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. My name is Nicole Galassi, testifying on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. We'll stand on our written testimony and support as well-managed rangelands contribute positively to carbon sequestration and soil health. Mahalo.
Thank you. That's everyone who had signed up to testify on SB 1178. Is there anyone else in the room wishing to testify? All right, seeing none. Other questions? Seeing none.
I have a
Oh,
question.
Vice Chair.
The measure does speak on appropriations on page 9, $2 million. So what agency,
Aloha. Leah Laramie with the Climate Commission.
we have provided legislation to use the gas tax to provide for carbon sequestration. And so has the money gotten to your agency? Because there's a portion of the gas tax that goes to energy, several other areas, including carbon sequestration. So who gets the money? What agency?
I'll need to check on that. I believe it might be Energy Office.
And energy does have their own, and I think it also was, University of Hawaii has a portion of the gas tax,
I'll have to look into that and get back to you on that.
but it hasn't gotten to
No,
you
it doesn't.
folks.
It doesn't contribute to the pre-existing program. Yeah,
Because the title to that and the gas tax language and statute certainly covers the carbon section. And so I'm kind of curious where the money goes. Otherwise, we're duplicating funds coming out of general fund. Now, 50% of the gas tax that comes to the state goes into the general fund. So what we're going to be doing is, it's duplicate somewhere.
Yeah, I can definitely look
Okay,
into that
maybe
and
you can
respond. Yeah.
let the committee know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's 5 sections, 5 groups that have monies. Okay.
Senator Rhodes.
Yeah, so this has always struck me as an area where at least a possibility exists that the state could make money on this, because the whole world has the same problem. We need to take carbon out of the atmosphere, and if I don't know whether it's true, I don't know whether this next statement is true or not, but if we are a place that can sequester carbon efficiently and economically, I'm guessing, and I guess that's the question, are there people out there who would be willing to pay for this service of sequestering carbon?
Yes, absolutely. I think the trick is, the level of willingness to pay versus the cost of things in the state and the ability for that to pay. I think that's always a an additional support, but it wouldn't pay completely for the actions typically, is what we've found. Really, the state has done a lot of work specifically on forestry and reforestation. And it's turning out to be very challenging to even get to the point where we can sell credits because of all the layers of bureaucracy to get there. So we're still exploring those options, absolutely, primarily in the forestry section, and that's a continued conversation. But I think that the ability to make money isn't maybe there, but to offset some of the costs is definitely a possibility.
So, I mean, I guess that assumes that the price of carbon right now is still, or the value of taking carbon out of the air is still low enough that people aren't willing to pay more. But do you think the price people are willing to pay to take carbon out of the atmosphere is going to stay the same as global warming progresses?
It's really a question of the policies put in place, because the more stringent the policies are, the more folks are required to. Another consideration is obviously if we are selling our carbon credits outside of the state, then we have to take that into our accounting. And so if we have a policy to be net negative by 2045, then that's taken away from that calculation as well.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chairs.
But you have to consider also that part of that policy is also people pay for it.
Of the carbon credits? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that it's been shown to be rather challenging here in the state, but that's not to say that it's not possible.
Yeah, but it's kind of like you're raising taxes to people, and whether it's on tickets or whatever, but you're still raising taxes. So it depends, I guess, what the policy will include, in whether Hawaii is ready for statutorily mandating that people must pay. That's unfortunately the negative side.
Yeah,
Senator
thank you.
Richards.
You mentioned forestry. Don't forget high-density rotational grazing. That's why the cattle industry is supporting this, because that's also a great way to sequester carbon. So don't lose sight of that.
Absolutely. And I think this program specifically is designed to include farmers, ranching, and forestry. I was just mentioning forestry is where we've concentrated most of our efforts to try and sell credits.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Right, yeah.
More is being learned, so we just need to keep that going.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Up next is Senate Bill 2322 relating to environmental assessments, which requires that an EA is conducted, an EIS be prepared for proposed uses within historic properties considered significant or recognized as traditional cultural properties. And testifying first on 2322 is Shipty.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. I'm Jessica Koff, the administrator of SHPD, and we stand on our testimony as submitted with comments, I believe.
Thank you. Testifying or signed up to testify next is the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Good afternoon.
Lealoha Makuanani, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We largely stand on our written comments, but we do mainly focus on some technical comments and amendments. So I did also want to add in part of the reasoning why it's important to include these types of historic properties in the 343 definition. And that is the one opportunity that we have to look at the impacts before the planning process truly is already to a point where decisions are being made on that. So the importance of including that here versus when it goes through 6E process is that that's decision-making point where in 343 we get to consider alternatives or avoidance at an earlier stage in the process. So mahalo I'll be available for questions.
Thank you. Did you guys sign up? Do you want to test? Okay. I apologize for OPSD on these. I have your testimony, but not the in-person sign up. But if you like, I mean, obviously, you're. Okay. Yeah, as we get to OPSD, I'll flip to call you guys up as well. Okay, that's everyone who would sign up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on 2322, SB 2322? All right, seeing none, other questions? Seeing none. All right, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to SB 2019, relating to the transfer of non-agricultural parklands, which requires the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to accept the transfer and management of certain qualifying non-ag parklands, and authorizes the Department of Ag and Biosecurity to request information, and requires approval from the board, both boards of Land, Natural Resources, and Agriculture, and then approved feasible and funded action plan before pasture lands are removed for reforestation or other purposes. Testifying first on SB 2019 is DLNR. Good afternoon.
Emma Ewan with DLNR. Apologize, we actually meant to send opposition. Our testimony mistakenly said comments, so I'll provide a new version to your committee. Wanted to mention that the Act 90 working group affirmed that some of these lands should remain in DLNR, and the legislature has urged us, though, to make more progress on transferring the remainder of these areas, and so we have been very active in that, negotiating, compromising, processing these transfers. And then in the last, since Governor Green took office, we actually have been over 50,000 acres, 50,000 acres have been either transferred or in the final stages of being transferred. Keeping DLNR in the process leads to really win-win situations. For instance, this past year, a rancher indicated to us that he doesn't use a majority of his lease because it's too dry, steep, and remote. And so DLNR is working with him to subdivide and transfer only the portion that is of interest to DAB, and the remainder, the public will get legal public access to a half-mile-long beach that's just a minute walk from the highway, a trail that will access for hunting and hiking thousands of landlocked areas. Oh, yeah. So we urge you that Act 90 is working as is, and we invite you to visit these areas that are not just pasture lands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is the Department of Ag and Biosecurity.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, committee members. The Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity stand on this written testimony.
Thank you. Also signed up to testify, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, chairs, vice chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have our written testimony and support. We'd like to alter that testimony to say in strong support. This has been a priority of the Farm Bureau for a number of years, many, many years. We do want to acknowledge the work that Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity and DLNR has done to transfer these lands. There's more work to be done. Land stewardship, invasive species control, increased food production, farm to school, regional kitchens, institutional purchasing, wildfire mitigation, that's all what these lands contribute to. We are asking for agricultural productive lands to be transferred to DAB for the management of those leases. We believe that's where it belongs. We're not asking for any other lands. It's the lands that are in agricultural production. Work has been done. There's more work to be done. That's why we're back here. We're back asking the legislature to help us get these lands over to the department where we believe that they're best managed under. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Testifying next, signed up to testify next is the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council on Zoom.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. We support this measure, and again, we want to recognize the work that has been done during Governor Green's administration on this topic. Chair Hurd and Chair Chang have worked together to implement Act 90, accomplishing more in a couple of years than has been accomplished in the past couple of decades. In several of these cases, the ranchers offered up portions of their lease to leave with DLNR, finding compromise in order for them to transfer to a department that will keep their parcel in active ag production. We support this bill because there are still leases that are in active ag that the DLNR does not agree to transfer to Department of Ag. And in addition, many of the leases that have been approved, they're still waiting to get the executive order and receive a lease under Department of Ag. They're still in the process. So we want to make sure there's no stalling as these leases are approaching expiration dates under DLNR. Thank you.
Thank you. That is, I believe, everyone who had signed up to testify on SB 2019. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? Seeing none, other questions?
Yep.
Senator Richards.
Eleanor? For the record.
Emma Yuen, DLNR.
Thanks everyone for being here. I echo the compliments of transferring 50,000 acres. But this has been a law in place for 20+ years. And the overwhelming support of finishing these transfers is coming forth. There are other leases that need to be transferred. We have a initiative in this state for food security, and that's part of it. Also, we need to manage these lands, as been articulated by Farm Bureau, as well as the Cattlemen's Association. When can we get these other leases transferred? And I appreciate, and I know that the lessees have been very interested in working, like you said, getting access to coastline. There are areas that makes all the sense in the world. There are other areas that make no sense, and they should be transferred. And this is why we need to push this forth. How many acres qualified for transfer? And we're at 50,000 now, but how many acres totally qualified? Do you have that number?
I do not have that number. I would guess there remains potentially around 20 to 30,000 acres that are Act 90 that would DLNR and BLNR would have to, I guess, have oversight on whether they should be transferred or not remaining.
Well, they should be transferred. It's just how we get them there. And so this is the concern. That's why we have this constant pressure to get going and get this done. So I appreciate that. It's my understanding somewhere 30,000 acres is a number that we need to finish talking about. But I think we can be creative and find ways to get this done. DLNR doesn't have the budget to manage these lands, and Active Agriculture is managing these lands with great track records. Some of these lands that have been transferred, if we don't transfer the rest of the lease, the operations can't continue because they need that water infrastructure that's still in these other places. So we need to work on that.
Yes.
Okay, so do we have your commitment to work on that?
We definitely do. And there's $1.5 million that was provided by the legislature 2 years ago to help us with the surveys that are largely the stumbling block with getting these lands transferred, because a lot of them do not have formal surveys and they don't have the easements that are required that might provide some of that public access to shorelines and that sort of thing that DLNR is seeking. And so that's one of the that's the main reason actually why so many of these lands kind of might be stalled while they are still being approved for transfer, is because of those surveys that take a long time and are very expensive.
But we should be able to transfer them because there's meets and bounds already in a lease.
No, a lot of them do not have meets and bounds.
So we have no leases?
We have, a lot of them are revocable permits that do not have leases. That's correct.
Okay, so, but we still have some entity that allows the operation to be there, some paper tract. So we should be able to transfer these and get the surveys done later. Because if we run out of time, as was stated, we're gonna have a worse mess on our hands.
Unfortunately, our understanding is that executive orders require surveys and meets and bounds to be official, and that's what we're working under. And so we're working very hard to get those surveys to happen. And we have my confirmation that we will continue to work as hard as we can to get that those surveys to be finished.
Since you're here for DLNR,
Yeah.
if we run out of time on these, DLNR will be happy to extend the leases until we get this thing done, or the grazing permits until we get that done.
I can't speak for the Board of Land and Natural Resources. I'm sorry.
This
but
is why we have the concern, because it's been in law for 20 years.
We do not, I don't think anyone in the department wants to kick any ranchers off their leases. And so I think that we will want to find ways to make sure that these lands are processed in a way that keeps these ranchers still on these areas.
We look forward to getting this done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And Emma, could you get us the actual number? You said 20 to 30,000 acres.
Yeah,
Just
we'll have to
give that to me some more.
research that, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Vice Chair.
Yeah.
Emma, there's no representative from the land division here. You were in forestry. Have you been transferred to the land division?
No, I'm still with Division of Forestry and
Okay,
Wildlife.
but you're speaking on behalf of DLNR on the land division,
No, we
on lands transferred.
we decided that for this bill, DOFA was going to be the lead for the department because it talks about reforestation. And so each bill has one division that's a lead, and DOFA is the leader.
Okay, in general, we're talking about the transfers for agriculture lands. And the concern that, well, fortunately, I'm the author of Act 90 20 years ago, and I'm back. Nonetheless, I agree with the comments made by our colleagues. When we have state lands, you have, and it's not transferred, it sits idle, we don't have an income. We transfer the lands to BOA, they deal with the applicants accordingly for ranching purposes, and you have a lease and you have an income. And so having an income on ag lands, and as articulated by Senator Richards in his district as well, where we have large acreage of agriculture, cattle growing and farming along the coast as well, is so important to our security of food supply. And so the longer we take, it's kind of like unacceptable for us to sit on lands that's unused and the income just disappears. Fortunately, we still have the capacity for generations that there are people who still want to continue with agriculture. And so knowing that the land division, which is sort of on its radar right now, because we got 3 major positions that's unfilled. And that's the administrator, second deputy, and then you have another top 3 that has not been filled. It's just to send a message to the department that is very concerning that we have these vacancies and the ag lands are still idle. We're not receiving income, and the renters are, who knows, it's something that we talked about before. Why are we still doing revocable permits? And it's unfortunate that we don't have anyone from the land division to respond to that as well. Thank you.
I do have a response. These lands are being leased out under DLNR, and we are receiving an income, and they aren't idle. So we are generating income from these lands currently, and the idea is to transfer to the Department of Ag and Biosecurity, where they would continue to keep these leases on the land, but it's not like these lands are idle now.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Further questions?
Yeah, Chair, just,
Senator Richards.
I was just made aware that last year we had Act 82, which was signed into law in 2025, that we can transfer the lands without a survey. Is that true?
Kevin, do you want to help with this?
I think you're correct, Chair.
Because, yeah, we were just talking about that bill, and
Yeah, Senator Kevin Moore, currently with the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. That act did pass, and it could be used. I think where you face challenges is when you transfer land without a meets and bounds description. It complicates things like mortgage financing, because what is the lender going to loan money on? Where are the boundaries? Could complicate things like liability insurance. What's the geographic limit of the policy? And so we haven't used it yet, or asked for it to be used on the receiving side. We have the legislative appropriations for the surveys, both to DLNR and to DAB, and those have pretty good traction right now.
But we have a law that would allow us to make the transfers.
Yeah, we do. There's
Okay,
strings
so let's
attached.
explore that.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, Chair.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next measure, Senate Bill 3043, relating to hunting, which requires the Department of Land and Natural Resources to adopt rules regarding safe and humane hunting practices, feral pigs, and hunting dog welfare standards, and establishes education programs, etc. Testifying first on 3043 is DLNR. Seems like every division of DLNR is represented well here today.
Hello, chairs, vice chairs.
Who's actually doing the work outside the script?
Members of the committee. Nicholas Vargas with the Department of Land and Natural Resources. The department offers the following comments for Senate Bill 3043. The department recognizes the purpose of this measure and notes that its goals align with the existing regulatory framework outlined in HAR chapters 13-122 and chapters 13-123. These are rules for regulating game bird hunting and regulating game mammal hunting. While we can regulate hunting activities through statutes and administrative rules on lands that DLNR manage, we cannot regulate or enforce an individual's hunter's ethics or morals decisions in the field or at their home. These ethical conduct, humane decision-making, and respect for wildlife are the responsibility that ultimately fall on individual hunters and the hunting community. While the department can set rules for lawful take and ban clearly defined acts of cruelty, we must avoid making rules that attempt to impose subjective ethical judgments that cannot be easily enforced in real-world conditions. I'll be
Good,
here
I
for
see
any
you.
questions.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. Signed up to testify next is the Hawaiian Humane Society.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees, Stephanie Kendrick for the Hawaiian Humane Society. You have our testimony and strong support of this bill. I just wanted to point out that in addition to protecting the welfare of hunting dogs and preventing a cruel and prolonged death by pigs who are being hunted, the prohibitions against training dogs to attack animals have much broader benefits to the community. There's a bill at the Senate right now, SB 2742, as Vice Chair Richards is aware, as the introducer, that is concerned with protecting livestock from attacks by dogs. We recently had a terrible case on Oahu where 11 goats were killed by a single dog, and that dog was dispatched by the property owner. That case is still under investigation, but every similar case that we have had, at least on Oahu, the dogs involved wound up being hunting dogs who were specifically trained to attack pigs. It's a terrible thing to do to the dogs, it's a terrible thing to do to the pigs, and it has serious ramifications for community safety and the safety of other animals. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Time is up. Thank you. Signed up next is the Animal Legal Defense Fund.
Good afternoon,
On
Chair
Zoom.
Lee. Good afternoon, Chair Lee, Chair Gabbard, and members of the committees. My name is Lindsay Verheilig, testifying on behalf of the Animal Legal Defense Fund in strong support of this legislation that would protect hunting dogs, feral pigs, and community members from inhumane hunting practices. The Animal Legal Defense Fund has over the years received numerous emails containing gruesome videos of feral pigs being restrained and repeatedly mauled by hunting dogs. This practice is not only unsportsmanlike and completely unnecessary, but it is animal cruelty, plain and simple. Thus, we support spelling out these acts in statute as animal cruelty to ensure that abusers are being prosecuted when there is evidence of it occurring, as well as clarifying in regulation acceptable methods of dispatch of game animals to limit suffering, and as well as prohibiting catch and release hunting. We also strongly support increased regulations on the humane treatment of hunting dogs to help curb much of the neglect and abandonment that can be seen across the state. And I will refer you to my written testimony for more. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, signed up is Clayton Kubo on Zoom.
Clayton Kubo from Waimea, Kauai. This is the way of life in Hawaii. We hunt, we gather, we fish, We do all that. In a way, there are rules already, as you heard from DLNR. I hope so. This measure is going to be deferred. Mahalo nui, aloha.
Thank you. Signed up next, also online, is Abraham Antonio, Senior. Aloha.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm a lifelong hunter for many generations now. I support DLNR's testimony, and I support my testimony as well, as well as Clayton Kubo's. As far as like abandoning animals, it's not necessarily just the hunters. The hunters always get bad name for abandoning animals. A lot of it just comes from the normal community as well. I've collected many animals on the side of the road that have been abandoned from the community members, not necessarily the hunting community. And if a hunting dog is on the side of the road, it's mainly because they're lost and they are afraid and they are skinny looking and everything like that. But by the time they actually get returned back to their owner, they're going to be all happy, wagtail, everything like that. As Humane Society can attest to that. I've lost a few dogs and I got them back and they're all happy to be back home. As far as what you guys see on social media, you guys don't need to stay there and watch the whole thing. There is a thing called swiping.
If you could summarize. Time
So
is.
I support my opposition in this against this bill, and this is a lifelong tradition in Hawaii and a valuable resource for getting out the pigs and any other invasive animals.
Thank you. Signed up next online is Brendan Chase. Good afternoon.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, and members. My name is Brandon, and I'm testifying in support. I believe it's really important to point out this bill does not ban hunting with dogs. It simply creates needed enforceable standards. Australia has similar cultural roots in pig hunting with dogs, and when unethical videos began appearing online, the hunters took it upon themselves to set standards in order to maintain public trust. This bill offers a similar standard that has proven successful. This measure reduces the number of lost and underweight dogs found on trails without interfering local tradition. One amendment the committee could consider is requiring signage at common hunting areas. That includes key rules and a QR code linking to a more detailed webpage. This would strengthen education and awareness. This bill can prevent hunting in Hawaii by being defined by its worst behavior while protecting this valued sport for future generations. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you. That is for 3043. I believe everyone who had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else in the room wishing to testify? Please come forward.
Angela Melody Young cares. I'm wishing to comment. So, the state of Hawaii has a unique pig problem. Also, we have a good combination of Asian American and Hawaiian people groups where, in the Filipino American community, it is okay to do cockfighting, but then in the United States, I don't know about that. So, in Hawaiian community, it's appropriate to smoke the pig and the emu after killing it. So this proposed legislation is designed to help raise awareness and to improve the ethical, safety, and animal rights standards surrounding feral pig hunting in Hawaii by requiring DLNR to set rules aimed to balance necessary wildlife management and natural resources mitigation with humane practices. So I'd like to ask the committee to consider a systematic approach to resolving this issue when there is confusion with various groups working together. So perhaps create a task force to include state and county offices and humane societies and veterinarian practices, invite agricultural industry stakeholders and also people working with domesticated animals and animal rights groups, and invite businesses who can help provide funding for training if contracted to do the work, and to organize at the bottom level in the communities across the state. Go over with the group clarification of responsibilities regarding the hunters education program, training, and veterinarian care standards to declare what constitutes as torture while improving the quality of life for animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room wishing to testify in this measure? Seeing none, are there questions? Just for DLNR then. Thanks. And appreciate, I think, a lot of the testimony here. I have a lot of friends who hunt in various places. In your testimony, you basically noted the distinction between public and private property and what folks should be doing where. Is that right?
Yep.
I'm reading the language in the bill, which basically just says if a person intentionally and knowingly uses one or more dogs to torture, torment, or knowingly cause prolonged suffering to wildlife, et cetera. That is sort of the operative section there. On public lands, is that something that, or is there an analog to that DLR currently regulates?
That we enforce for
Yeah, in
anything, like the timing?
Anything similar. I mean, basically, obviously the way that you hunt, what sort of game you're able to hunt depending on the location and various things. DLR regulates on public lands. Is that right?
The way that we regulate dog and knife hunting, we do have specific rules is, dog owners shall accompany dogs at all time while in hunting, and dogs should be under control at all times and physically restrained except when hunting and actively pursuing game. That specific part in our chapter 123 rules, that kind of, it's kind of like, not the exemption, but it's just like, that's the part where it's the key word is if they're chasing game, that changes the activity, right? They're no longer transporting the dog through a forest reserve, through a public hunting area.
Right.
They're going and they're actually chasing, or they're going after their quarry. The thing about hunting dogs is when you let go of your dogs in an appropriate location, these dogs can range between, a couple hundred yards to miles, right? Different owners have like different devices, GPS, collars, radios, all that kind of stuff. So it's, when you release your hunting dog, you're releasing it into like various terrains, steep, very wooded, how bush areas. So,
As I read it currently though, wouldn't this not apply in a situation where someone is normally out hunting in a place where they're permitted to be, hunting whatever the appropriate thing is that they're after in this particular place, they let their dogs go? That wouldn't apply in this situation as I read it, because the only way that this language, which is using dogs to torture, torment, or knowingly cause prolonged suffering, would be if you're intentionally trying to do that under this pretty explicit language.
Yeah.
So in other words, the average person hunting normally, nothing changes. It's only if you're intentionally doing something pretty terrible, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Reading through testimony, there are some other examples of that have been brought up. But is that your reading of this?
That would be my understanding, is that yes, the activity is different. That when people are out public hunting, they're engaged in capturing a pig, with capturing their quarry, taking it home, dispatching it humanely.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Senator Richards?
I do, but not for Dylan R.
Oh.
Thank you.
Humane Society? I don't know if you've had a chance to read some of the testimony, but, and so has been stated on the public testimony, characterizing pig hunting as hunters not caring for their animals. You and I have known each other for quite a
We've
few
never
years.
characterized.
I'm not saying you have.
Okay.
But you happen to be in the room.
Sure.
To help me have the conversation.
Yes, absolutely, happy to.
But it's been my experience that the pig hunters are probably over the top as far as caring for their animals. As a veterinarian, I've seen a lot of these animals for those injuries and things like that. But the characterization that generalized the pig hunters don't care, wouldn't you say that's an unfair characterization?
That is an unfair characterization.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because for the most part, I've had cowboys sleep with their dog because we would lose it if it lost its body heat, and they go to extreme to take care of these animals. So it's not that they're not caring. Now, I'm not going to say we don't have bad players.
Sure. And I think that's what this bill specifically addresses, is the bad players. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions? If not, let's move on to the next measure, SB 3014 relating to wildlife, which increases the fines for taking or harassing protected turtles. Testifying first on 3014 is Department of Land and Natural Resources. A new division of the.
New division representing department. Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Brian Nielsen, representing Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. Available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. That is everyone who had signed up to testify on 3014. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? Seeing none, are there any questions? Seeing none.
I got one quick
Senator
question.
Richards.
Is there anybody working at DLNR today, or is everybody over here at the legislature?
At your service, Senator.
Okay. I was reading this just to verify, and I agree with what we're trying to get done here. But if someone does a Good Samaritan deal, taking a turtle out of a net or something like that, this doesn't affect that.
Yeah, and that happens all the time where turtle's hooked or entangled in a net, and somebody, a citizen, helps that turtle using, best practices and releases it. And the federal government recognizes that as well under the Endangered Species Act as, a citizen trying to help the animal.
Okay, so as long as we're not touching that, we're recognizing that's very valuable for us.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So what if that individual comes upon that turtle that has been injured, turtle is suffering, and the individual tries to take the turtle out of its misery?
I think we would recommend that the individual calls NOAA or DoCare or DLNR.
What if NOAA and DoCare is 2.5 hours out? It's kind of like, I might have one horse that's suffering some 50 miles away from a veterinarian, but yet that horse is in excruciating pain where it's broken its leg.
Yeah, that's a tough call. I mean, turtles are protected under federal Endangered Species Act, so I think it'd ultimately be their call. But I guess it depends on the situation and circumstances. All sorts of things could happen.
So do you believe by increasing the fines for taking or harassing protected turtles in the state will deter people from engaging in these bad behaviors?
I think it's one tool in the toolbox. It certainly couldn't hurt, but of course, outreach efforts and trying to reach visitors with proper ways to behave around our marine wildlife. That's another really good tool.
Thank you, Chair.
So is there a vigorous outreach, since you brought it up, to our tourists? So I've seen some horrific things on the evening news.
Yeah, there's campaigns, I'm sure you've seen on Hawai'i Airlines. They play videos now. We have staff that do outreach. Most of that is focused with fishery interactions and how to avoid interactions. More could be done, but I'd say there's things happening. We've also seen the news when there is, one of these horrendous incidents of someone harassing wildlife that usually makes the news. And so that's, I hope, a deterrent as well.
So is there an organized effort? Are the departments and agencies working together?
I wouldn't say so. Hopefully with the green fee and some of these extra funds to support tourism impacts and natural resources, we can get better at collaborating and coming up with, campaigns to try to minimize these kind of interactions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to the next measure, SB 2972, relating to Oahu coral reef restoration, which temporarily prohibits the taking by spearing of uhu or kala in state marine waters and prohibits the commercial sale until DAR's Holomua initiative adopts applicable regulations. Testifying first is DAR.
Well, again, Brian Nielsen, representing Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony, appreciate the intent of this bill, and offer some comments for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Moving on to the next testifier signed up is Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. In strong support of this bill, we have a situation where the coral in Hawaii are dying. One of the things that's keeping them alive is herbivorous fish. On Oahu, we don't have enough of those, and that's in part because of spear fishing. One of the things we can do is to prevent the taking of these fish, particularly the uhu and kala, which are critical for cleaning the reef of algae so that the coral can propagate and move forward. So this is a very important bill for the health of the coral in Hawaii, which, is really the basis of our lifestyle here. And I urge the committee to pass the bill. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Available for questions.
Thank you. Signed up to testify next is the Ocean Legislative Task Force. Oh, thank you. Up next on Zoom is Native Hawaiian Gathering Rights Association.
Not available on Zoom, Chair.
Okay. And then also on Zoom.
Chair, would you support or, sorry?
I'm sorry?
Is that support or comments? The last testifier, the one testifier.
That's opposition. Up next is, sorry, I just lost my place here. On Zoom again, Clayton Kubo. Aloha.
Clayton Kubo from Waimea, Kauai. I am in strong opposition to this measure. I'm pretty sure that this bill is trying to ban a form of gathering. Am I correct? Okay, well, since nobody will answer, well, that is the reason why I am in strong opposition. In a way, it's like you guys just trying to, or whoever is just trying to cut off a person's arm. We have, for generations, learned how to gather in some ways. And this is what, to me, if I'm not mistaken, sometimes I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, this bill is trying to ban a form of gathering. Mahalo nui. Aloha.
Thank you. That is, I think everyone who had signed up to testify on this measure. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on SB 2972? Please come forward.
Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. In strong support of the proposed measure. So parrotfish and unicorn fish in Hawaii are currently not on the federal endangered species list like Hawaiian birds are, but protective measures to restore Hawaii's coral reefs by managing overfishing will help the vulnerable population of fishes to grow and then to repopulate. And so key aspects of the proposal manages the targeted species of the parrotfish and the blue spine unicorn fish, and with prohibitions of taking by spear and a commercial ban of prohibiting commercial sale of the fish taken in this manner helps to restore the coral reef systems in Hawaii. And this can help DLNR with utilizing this initiative to address declines in herbivore populations, which are crucial and critically needed for preventing algae and overgrowth of coral.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on SB 2972? All right, seeing none, other questions? For Dar. Thanks. This touches on a couple things, part of which was a conversation I think yesterday or the day before regarding the reefs in general. To the testifier's point, you guys are working on a Holomua initiative which engages the community on trying to figure out how to properly regulate and do all the things. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
This bill, as I read it, applies to Oahu only.
Yes.
Where's the Holomua process at for Oahu?
Yeah, so Nothing planned yet. Currently, we have the Holomoa process happening in Maui, and then we're moving on to Hawaii Island next. If there's enough interest from community members on Oahu, we'd move to Oahu next. So probably 2028, looking at the staffing that we have. So yeah, a couple of years out, best case scenario with the Holomoa initiative.
I raised this because yesterday we talked about kind of just where things are at. You'd said Hawaii's on track to lose the majority of its reefs in the next, coming decades. The testimony here that kind of precipitated this conversation was that, I'm quoting here, Oahu's reefs are below 5% of the pristine stocks in other places when it comes to herbivores, which constitutes, quote, an emergency by any definition of the word and requires immediate action. We are literally one coral bleaching event away from losing a majority of our reefs here on Oahu. The other testimony, which is from the former NOAA official, talked about specifically the loss on Oahu versus other islands, Oahu being by far the most, I guess you could say, degraded island with reefs at most jeopardy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and coral reef resilience, uhu kala, they're high on our priority list for management. The division put together a sustainable herbivore management plan in 2022, and we updated that in 2024. We're in the process of implementing that. So since then, we've developed statewide rules for uhu and kala. So bag limits, daily bag limits for uhu and kala. There was no bag limits prior to that. Those went into effect in 2024. We also set annual catch limits for uhu and kala commercial fisheries. There was no catch limits before. We also just enacted the Maunalua Bay Fishery Management Area. That was a fisher-driven process to ban night spearfishing in Maunalua Bay. That was enacted last year. So we're taking action. It's just slow to come. And like I said, the Holomoa is a couple years out. There's people in the academic community, they're worried that we don't have the time it takes to run a whole Holomoa process, and that's where legislation like this comes in. But we are concerned about these species. We're concerned about the reefs as well.
I raised that because if Oahu's the most endangered reefs in the state, why not start there versus other islands where things are much better?
Yeah, I think it's about getting that community buy-in and support. We don't want to ram this initiative down people's throats. We kind of saw some pushback with the 30 by 30 initiative, and so we're cautious that we want to be welcomed into these conversations rather than force it on anyone. And so that's where.
Totally appreciate that, but I think if you're not even going to start the process, how can anything happen? Like, nobody can be engaged meaningfully at all if there's nothing to be engaged.
Yes, that's a fair criticism. We are concerned about the impact on fishers. I think this bill, it's very surgical. I think there was a lot of effort to avoid the impacts to the fishing community. I see the biggest impact being to commercial uhu fisheries and the markets that sell uhu. Kala fisheries, I don't think will be impacted as much because that's primarily a net fishery. So, just making sure that those fishers that are going to be impacted by this bill have a voice at the table, know what's happening. I think that's our concern, but fair point in terms of our lengthy timeline for getting these initiatives to Oahu.
So can we flip it and start Oahu?
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, we'd appreciate some extra support to get that going, but yeah.
Because otherwise, if things go the way they are and you have a big bleaching event this year, I don't know if this year's an El Nino year, but then nobody has fish for anything.
Yeah, fair point, yeah.
Okay. Further questions? Yeah.
So,
sorry. Oh, yeah, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Aging for beauty.
Oh, my God.
Nah, it's okay.
I thought you guys were the same age, 35.
14. This applies to Oahu, and one of the things you have in here, no spear fishing at night, essentially, for
Yes.
the uhu, which makes sense because of the behavior. just a concern is this is temporary until you have your Holomua initiative. Some of these temporary things can stretch out to decades. And do you foresee that, being sure that this is handled? Because I agree with the premise going forward, but we want to make sure that we don't put a temporary thing in place for 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid concern. It gets back to Senator Lee's point about how long these things can take to be, started and then finished at the other end. The impacts to the fishery would be immediate as well. And, to tell a fisherman that's making his livelihood off this fishery that we're going to press pause on this, you can come back, in a few years, that's going to be a major impact to that fisher. So those are some other things that we want to consider.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yep.
No, Beauty.
Thank you, Beast. So I just wanted to follow up. So I know that it was very contentious when you went to the neighbor islands. What kind of studies have you done on just the amount of fish, or in this case, kala and uhu, on those neighbor islands? Because I can tell you that as NOAA has brought seals into those areas, the seals hang out because they're hungry and there's food. If not, they would leave. So when was the latest study you folks have done? And I'm talking about a deep study into that fishery, because I can tell you right now, I do jump in the ocean.
Yeah. So in terms of statewide, the latest statewide coverage survey was conducted by NOAA in 2024. And we do see, pretty decent uhu and kala numbers on neighbor islands, but Oahu does have some of the lowest. Hawaii's down there too, at least in those two particular species. NOAA also conducted a stock assessment of a number of these species, including uhu and kala, I think back in 2017, found that pretty low spawning potential ratio, which is kind of stock assessment speech for the populations aren't doing great. But that was done on a statewide level, so it's hard to pull out individual islands. We are working with NOAA right now to redo those studies, but on an island-based level, so we can get the island-based.
So I notice you guys always work with NOAA. What about the local people that live in that area, that fish that area? Why don't you guys incorporate having some of them? Because I can tell you, when you guys came out to Molokai and even to Maui, I didn't see anybody that lived in that area that was part of the team or was included in helping to gather that data, which to me, you would want that community to be involved. So why not?
Absolutely, and that's a really good point. We are working with commercial fishers on Maui right now to collect that catch data, because we go out, we do dive surveys, but we don't actually have the catch, the fish to be able to measure. So we're working with commercial fishers on Maui to get that data, and that's going to help inform these assessments. And then on Molokai, we've just started in the last year to work with fishers to have their catch incorporated into the
I'm curious to know
analysis
which
as well.
fishers on Molokai.
Yeah, I could get back with some names for you. Yeah.
Okay, and then I noticed earlier you guys talked about the coral bleaching, and that has done major impacts. What is your thoughts on runoff that have hurt our coral reefs as well? Because I never see you guys provide testimony on runoff from silt, and whether it be that or anything else.
Yeah, we are tracking water quality bills this session, a lot of cesspool and pollution type bills. So that is on our radar. And although it's outside of our jurisdiction and authority, we're the downstream user, all our fisheries and our coral reefs. So, totally agree with issues of trying to address sedimentation, sewage pollution, because those also have major impact on coral reefs, but also the fish that depend on them.
So is it more on the coral bleaching, or is it on the runoff?
I'd say the bleaching, that's caused by ocean heat waves, and, climate change that's hard for us to control at a local level, but controlling sewage, pollutants, that's going to help our reefs be able to recover from those bleaching events quicker, also managing herbivore fish so that we have
Wow.
healthy herbivores out there to be able to maintain algae
So,
growth.
so you're
Yeah.
saying it's better for us to have sewage on the reef for the fish to eat than on,
I'm saying it's a multi-prong approach. We need to be looking at all of these things if we want to see reefs in 30 years. We can't just be focused on fisheries, we have to be focused on sedimentation, on
no, but you talked
cesspools.
about the sewage.
Yeah, what-
That it's part, I mean, you said something about feeding off of sewage.
So the sewage can promote algae growth, that's, a bleaching event comes, kills coral, it's gonna feed algae that's gonna smother those reefs and prevent that coral from being able to come
Regrowth.
back.
Oh, so it's impact, I thought you said it would be helpful. I was thinking-
No, no, no,
It's
no.
like, whoa,
That-
okay.
Sewage is probably the biggest
Yeah.
thing we can do to help our reefs in terms of the land-based stressors, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on to the next measure, SB 1190, relating to the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, which appropriates funds to support its initiatives to control and eradicate invasive species. Testifying first on SB 1190 is DLNR.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. My name is Patrick Chi. I'm from the Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. We strongly support this bill to fund the Hawaii Invasive Species Council and its continued work. We also recognize that when Act 236 comes into play and moves the Hawaii Invasive Species Council to DAB, that will be in 2030. But until that time, we highly suggest that the funding continue to go to the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is the Department of Ag and Biosecurity.
Good afternoon. The department stands on this written testimony and support.
Thank you. Next is Environmental Health. Admin.
And my name is Susan, and the department provided a briefing testimony and the support that we outstanding our.
Thank you. Up next is the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species, CGAPS.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Easley with the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species. We are in support of this bill. As Mr. Chi just mentioned, HISC, the functions and duties of HISC will transfer to DLNR to DAB in 2030 from DLNR. Until that time, we support the funding going to DLNR, the administering agency. We offered a clarifying amendment in our testimony for your consideration. Thank you for your
Thank you. Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have written testimony support. We support HISC and the great work that they do in combating invasive species. We just asked for a clarification. The measure, I believe, appropriates $4.25 million to HISC in 2025, 2026, and fiscal year 2026, 2027. We believe that Act 236 already has done that. So just a clarification, if this is additional funding, which we obviously support as much funding for biosecurity as possible. It appears to mirror what the bill did last year, but again, if it's additional funding, we absolutely support that. And we also support what's in the next bill of retaining the funding in the department that HIS is currently housed under. And right now that is in DLNR, and so we would be supportive of that also. We understand that's previous testimony, that's our testimony for the next bill also. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Up next is Oahu Invasive Species Committee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. My name is Nate Doobie. I'm the manager for the Oahu Invasive Species Committee, testifying in strong support of this bill. Standing on our written testimony, here to answer questions, but I do just want to highlight a few statistics that I included in my written testimony to demonstrate how important these funds are to invasive species response on Oahu. OISC alone, which is just one of many programs and projects relating to biosecurity that utilizes these funds, has been able to survey and treat across 834 acres for little fire ant, including 280 unique responses, over 13,000 vials analyzed for 27 unique sites. Survey and treat across 203 acres for coqui frog, including 83 responses, over 14,000 pounds of citric acid deployed to control coqui frog across 3 unique sites. And those are just a couple of the high-level data points that are included in the testimony. Here to answer questions on anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. And then on Zoom, Ron Tubbs.
Not available on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, that's everyone who had signed up to testify on SB 1190. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Thanks. Let's move on to the last measure on the agenda, SB 2488, relating to the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, which establishes the position of the Executive Director and appropriates funds. Testifying first on the last measure, 2488, is Department of Health, Environmental Services.
Good afternoon,
Thank you. Up next is the Department of Ag and Biosecurity.
Good afternoon. Department stands on its written testimony and support.
Thank you. DLNR.
Chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committees, Patrick Chi from the Hawaii Invasive Species Council and Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our testimony in strong support of this bill. We're pointing out also that the Hawaii Invasive Species Council in its September meeting approved a change in the structure of the way that Hawaii Invasive Species Council supports staff is structured, including this executive director position. This creation of this, the Hawaii Invasive Species Council's statute does not include any staff in it. And should this executive director be added on, it would definitely help in creating a position that would potentially move with the Hawaiian Invasive Species Council when it moves to the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. We also support the other measures. You can see that in our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is CGAPS.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Stephanie Easley with the coordinating group on alien pest species. You have our testimony in support. Similar to SB 1190, we support the funding for HISC remaining with DLNR while DLNR has the functions and duties of HISC. Having an executive director, as Mr. Chi just said, is someone that would go with HISC when it's transferred, because the current staff is DLNR staff. And what that staff does really is at the executive director level, what Chelsea and Pat have done over these last few years with the work of the council, and we hope you'll agree to pass it. And if you have any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Testifying next is the Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on this written testimony in support.
Thank you. And OISC.
OISC is going to stand on our written testimony in strong support. Thanks.
Thank you. That's everyone who had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure this afternoon? Seeing none, are there any questions? Seeing none. Okay, thanks everybody for your appreciation on this. I'll note that our joint committees also have another agenda starting in 10 minutes, which is the exact same two committees. So why don't we recess this agenda for decision-making? We'll come back after we go through the next agenda as well, and we can figure all that out at the same time, if that is amenable to you, Chair?
Sure.
Okay, IT needs a few minutes here to reset for the next hearing, so we'll take this hearing into recess. Good afternoon. We're reconvening the joint committees on water, land, and culture and arts on our 1 p.m. agenda. Thanks everybody for your patience as we got through these agendas. We're returning for decision-making. Okay. Chairs having conferred, up first is Senate Bill 2606, relating to wildlife, which establishes the Freshwater State Recreational Area Wildlife Sanctuary Corporation. We'll take actually the first two, and SB 3253 relating to conservation, which is the other sanctuary bill. We're going to defer SB 2606 and move the second one. So for SB 3253, the recommendation is going to be to pass with amendments, combining the previous measure, SB 2606, such that the measure establishes and recognizes a nonprofit to partner with the state on setting up conservation sanctuaries, beginning on 3, 1 around a recreational body of water, 1 in an area appropriate for a native bird sanctuary, and 1 appropriate as a larger rescue animal sanctuary. We'll defect the date and let that go on to Ways and Means for further discussion. Any questions, comments on that?
Chair, would you like me to take votes for you?
Sure. If you would be so kind. Thanks. Okay, any questions, comments? Seeing none. Acting Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair's recommendation on SB 3253 is to pass with amendments. Chair Lee.
Aye.
Vice Chair Inouye is excused. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Lamassoure. Aye. And Senator DeCourt.
Aye.
Recommendations adopted.
Thanks. Moving on to SB 23.
Same recommendation,
Oh, I'm sorry.
same recommendation for AEN. Chair votes aye. Any discussion? Vice Chair.
On SB 3253, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator DeCoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwa. Chair, you have 5 in favor.
Thank you, members.
Okay, thanks. Moving on to the next measure, SB 237, relating to adaptation pathways planning. Appreciate everyone's discussion. I'd like to move this forward for continued discussion, passing with amendments, blanking out the appropriation. We'll note that in the committee report, and then adding a defective date as this goes on to the Ways and Means Committee. Any comments, discussion?
1 second. 237.
Yes.
Which agenda? Okay, that's right. Your recommendation.
Passing with amendments.
Chair's, second. Chair's recommendation on the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts on SB 237 passed with amendments. Chair Lee.
Aye.
Okay, Vice Chair goes aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Okay, Senator Lamassoure.
Aye.
And Senator DeCourt.
Aye.
Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Same recommendation for AEN. Chair votes aye. Any discussion?
Chair.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, quick, I'll be voting with reservations just because some of the comments made, but I agree that this needs to go forward. On Senate Bill 237, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator DeCoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Reservation.
Senator Alwa. Chair, you have 5 in favor.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Moving on to Senate Bill 3252 relating to climate planning. Similarly, I'd like to move this forward with amendments, blanking out the appropriation. And just noting in the committee report that if we don't know what we don't know, then we'll end up paying quite a bit of money for things that we otherwise could avoid potentially. So As we move this on to the Ways and Means Committee, there are positions in this that could provide additional capacity to evaluate what those future costs could be and potential pathways for the state to reduce those costs to everybody. And then add in a defective date as well. Any discussion, any comments on this? Not Vice Chair for the
For the
vote.
Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 3252 with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Senator Decourt is a nay. Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 3252, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Decoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Awa? Chair, you have 4 in favor, motion adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Moving on to SB 1178 relating to carbon sequestration incentives. Recommendations to move with amendments with blanking out the appropriation and adding in a defective date. Any questions, comments on this? If not, Vice Chair.
Okay. Chair's recommendation for the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts is to pass with amendments with 5 members present. Only, let's see, any voting with reservations. Any no votes, Vice Chair goes with reservations. Okay, any no votes? Hearing none, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any comments or questions? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Senate Bill 1178, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Decoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa? Chair, you have 5 in favor,
Thank you,
adopted.
members.
Thanks. Up next is SB 2322 relating to environmental assessments. Recommendations to move this on as well. This goes to the JDC Committee, but adopting amendments from DLNR and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs that with language regarding property having an important value to the Native Hawaiian people or to another ethnic group of the state due to associations with cultural practices once carried out or still carried out at the property, or due to associations with traditional beliefs, events, or oral accounts. These associations being important to the group's history and cultural identity, and then adding in a defective date. Any questions or comments? If not, Vice Chair.
For the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 2322 with amendments with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Okay, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Same recommendation for AEN on SB 2322. Any discussion or comments? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 2322 with 5 members in attendance, anybody voting with reservations or nay? Hearing none, you have 5 in favor, motion adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Up next is SB 2019 relating to the transfer of non-agricultural parklands. Appreciate everybody's discussion on this one. I'd like to move it forward to keep the discussion going. We know there's differing opinions on some of this, but I'd like to pass it with amendments, just affecting the date. Any questions or comments? If not, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendation for the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts on SB 2019 is to pass with amendments, any with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Hearing none, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion or comments? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 2019, passing with amendments of the 5 members in attendance, any voting with reservations?
Reservations.
Any no votes? Chair, you have 5 in favor, motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Up next is SB 3043 relating to hunting. I'd like to recommend moving this forward, but with amendments. Appreciate the discussion being had, and obviously we have a lot of friends who are hunters across all the islands. So I want to be clear about what we're doing here. Also adopt address DLNR's concerns raised in testimony, clarifying that their purview and engagement is only for public lands as it relates to this bill, adding in a defective date. So it's and then amending the preamble, so it's very clear that the intention for this bill is only to address those bad actors who are intentionally and knowingly doing things that are torture and abuse and those sorts of things, not traditional and regular hunting practices. And this would go on to OJDC and WAM for further discussion. Any questions or comments on that? If not, Vice Chair.
For the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 3053 with amendments. 30, sorry. Chair's recommendation to pass SB 3043 with amendments, and this is to the Water, Land, and Culture, and the Arts Committee with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations? Any no votes? Okay. Vice Chair will vote with reservations. No vote for Senator DeCourt. Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion?
Chair. On Senate Bill 3043, I'll be voting with reservations. I appreciate what chairs have done to work on this. And again, this is targeted at the bad actors, but I just want to express my concern because we have a lot of good hunters in our state.
Sure. Same request as well. On the neighbor islands, we have a lot of hunters. While we do have some bad actors, I can tell you too, even with the amendment changes, thank you on the public lands, but we do also have those lands used for hunters as well. And some of that can be misconstrued with what is really happening as well. So I will be voting reservations to have more discussion.
Chair votes aye.
On SB 3043, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes reservations. Senator DeCoit.
Reservations.
Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Awa. Chair, you have 5 in favor.
Thank you. Up next is SB 3014 relating to wildlife. Recommend moving us along. All testimony was, in support. So as is. Any discussion, comments? Vice Chair.
For the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 3014 unamended with 5 members present. Any voting with reservations? Any no votes? Measure is adopted.
And for AEN, same recommendation. Any discussion?
Chair.
Comments?
Chair,
I wanted to make one comment first. And that
go
is
ahead.
I was considering the death penalty for this one, but my staff reminded me that the death penalty is illegal in Hawaii, so I will just go ahead with it. Yes, Senator DeCourt.
Thank you, Chair. I expressed earlier during testimony that in some instances, you might have a bad actor that has, shot a turtle or is trying to rescue that turtle, which is in serious condition, as we've dealt with many animals. Help whether euthanize and put them down humanely might not be readily available. In this case, if you do see an animal suffering, I would not like to see the animal suffer. For that reason, I have concerns, and I will be voting with reservations.
All right, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
To clarify, this is passing unamended, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Senate Bill 3014, passing unamended. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit.
Reservations.
Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Awa. You have 5 in favor.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Up next is SB 2972 relating to Oahu coral reef restoration. Appreciate everybody's comments. We're going to amend this one a bit. I think we want to, similarly to the last one, make clear that while DLNR is taking its time to address, I think, the community outreach here on Oahu. Oahu is that island with the reefs that are most in jeopardy. So we want to be clear about the intent, which is not to change or make any permanent changes to governance or fishing regulations or anything like that, but rather create a temporary measure that persists only until DLNR can get its Holomua program engaging all the different stakeholders in the various communities here in Oahu in progress. And secondly, note some of the testimony from some of our friends was on concerns about prohibition on sale of specific species. So we want to remove that prohibition on sale, commercial sale from the bill. And to some of the discussion that had been brought up during the testimony, add a sunset into the measure, which we'll leave blank for now, but to make sure that it's clear that this is a temporary measure until DLNR can take action, and then add in an effective date as this goes on for further consideration. Any comments or questions on this one?
Okay. Chair's recommendation of the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts is to pass SB 2972 with amendments, with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Hearing none, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair.
It's back and forth as somebody who catches this kind of fish. We don't do it at night. And so I expected the testimony here to come in and say, hey, we want to catch the bad actors. I expected that. But what I heard, aside from DLNR, who seemed open to both sides, what I heard was more of, hey, this is bad, or these fish, because we don't have these fish, we don't have the reef. There's so many other factors. So for now, I'm going to vote no, because I don't like the intent behind it, at least from what I heard. If this is about catching the people and busting the 9 people that took 150 uhu kala at Waimea Bay a couple years ago, I'm all for that, but not taking away from Hawaiians and sustenance. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
You know, I have concerns, you know, I was engaged when they did 30 by 30, which is why we went back to Holomua. Again, to many of my constituents are subsistence fishermen, but part of it is that they should also engage those local fishermen as being part of the solution. So I will vote with reservations, and the reason why I'm not voting no is I want to be engaged with this if it moves into conference. Thank you.
Okay. So
Yeah, I'll just note I appreciate that, and I think part of the intent here, because this is an Oahu-only bill, is to compel DLNR to start that outreach here in Oahu to various stakeholders and whatnot.
Message received, Chair.
Oh, appreciate that.
Okay, so the chair votes aye on this, Vice Chair.
Yeah, and just, I'm echoing Senator DeCoite's concerns. I'll be voting with reservations. So on SB 2972, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair with reservations. Senator DeCoite?
Reservations.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
No.
Chair, you have 4 in favor.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Only a couple more to go. SB 1190 relating to the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. Recommendations to move forward with amendments, blanking out the appropriation and adding a defective date. Questions, comments? If not,
Chair's recommendation of the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts is to pass SB 1190, is to pass with amendments, with 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 1190, passing with amendments of 5 members, anybody voting with reservations or no? Chair, you have 5 in favor.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. And for the last measure, SB 2488 relating to Hawaii Invasive Species Council, recommendation is to move this forward, just adding in a defective date. Reservations, comments, seeing none? Vice Chair.
For the Committee on Water, Land, Culture, and the Arts, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 2488 with amendments. Is that correct?
Yes.
With amendments. Okay. With 5 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Hearing none, seeing none, measure is adopted, Mr. Chair.
And same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 2488, passing with amendments of the 5 members present, any voting with reservations? No votes. Chair, you have 5 in favor.
Thank you, members. So we just vote.
We got to technically, so we're going to adjourn our 1 p.m. agenda and turn it back over to Chair Gabbard to go into decision-making on our 3 PM.